We will now proceed with the next address for the conference. It is my pleasure now to invite Mr. Amitabh Kant, Chief Executive Officer, National Institution for Transforming India, Niti Aayog, to deliver his address on 3.5 years of Modi's government, an insider's view. Mr. Kant, please.
Mr. Gopinath Pillai, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to be here at the ISAS International Conference on South Asia. Mr. Gopinath Pillai has asked me to speak on 3.5 years of the Modi government and asked me to give an insider's view. I'm a civil servant, and my perspective will not be a political perspective. It will be an objective perspective as a civil servant. The Modi government came into power in 2014. The mandate was for, to my mind, one of high growth. And during this last 3.5 years, India has grown at about 7.5%. But the challenge for India is to grow at even higher rates of 9 to 10% year after year for 3 decades or more, to be able to lift a very, very young population above the poverty line. India's population is extremely young. 72% of the population is below the age of 32. And I think this, to my mind, is the biggest social and economic change that is taking place across the world, that the population in India is getting younger and younger, while the population across the world, especially in the Western Hemisphere, is getting older and older. And this provides a unique opportunity with low dependency burden. But what does India need to do to be able to grow at high rates of 9 to 10% over a long period of time? I think first and foremost, India had made itself a very complex, very difficult, and a very complicated place to do business in. During the last 3.5 years, this government has tried to make itself a very simple and an easy place to do business in. It has dismantled a lot of rules, regulation, procedures, and paperwork. It has digitized most of the government functioning, tried to cut away human intervention. It has scrapped 1,200 laws, which is quite unprecedented. It has, for instance, the number of forms for import and export, which were 12 and 11, have been brought down to 3. And the country has jumped up about 42 positions in the ease of doing business with the World Bank. But India is a very large country. It is bigger than 24 countries of Europe, plus another 30,000 kilometers. And therefore, in a federal structure, a lot of simplicity and easiness is dependent on how the states work. And therefore, one of the key challenges was that while the central government becomes easy and simple, it's very important that the states also become easy and simple. One of the key things was to make states compete, and on the ease of doing business, we laid out about 100 outcomes on which we made the states compete. The first year we did this, Gujarat came number 1. But the very next year, the new state of Telangana beat Gujarat. Telangana and Andhra came number 1. But the good thing was that the eastern part of this country, states like Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh, which are mineral rich, came 4th and 5th, and they dismantled a lot of rules and regulation. And therefore, there's been a huge amount of competition among states, and sparring competition has made states easy and simple. And this competition, starting from ranking of states, naming and shaming of states, and making good governance as good politics, starting from ease of doing business, has spread to health, it has spread to education, it has led to ranking of states on cleanliness, ranking of districts on hospitals, and I think there's been a huge movement of spreading competitive federalism. So first and foremost, making India easy and simple for private sector to create wealth in India. The second thing is that while the rest of the world has been talking about protectionism, India believes that India is a very integral part of the global supply chain, and therefore, in the last 3.5 years, India has radically opened up its economy. On the foreign direct investment side, we've opened up 22 sectors. We've almost 98% of the foreign direct investment which comes into India comes through the automatic route. We've disbanded the Foreign Investment Promotion Board simply because there were just not adequate number of proposals coming for the approval route. And in the last 3.5 years, India has emerged as the #1 recipient of foreign direct investment. In 3.5 years, we've received over $165 billion worth of foreign direct investment in India. So India today is one of the most open economies of the world. We've opened up just about every single sector, from e-commerce to insurance to pension fund, everything. And if there's anything else any Singapore company feels needs to be opened us, do tell us. We'll be very open to opening up even further. The third point, to my mind, is that India's focused on urbanization in a very big way. India has been a very reluctant urbanizer, but this is the first government which has focused on 100 smart cities. And to my mind, urbanization will be a key to driving growth and prosperity. As I speak here, today, every minute, there are 30 Indians who move from rural areas to urban areas. And if you go by the latest McKinsey study, in the next 5 decades, India will see over 700 million Indians moving from rural areas to urban areas. And therefore, urbanization will be critical. When Europe and America urbanized, land, gas, and water were all cheaply available. And because they were cheaply available, America had the luxury of creating cities where you could live in New Jersey, travel to New York, guzzle gas, have limousines, create cities like Atlanta where 99% of the people travel by car. But now when India launches its process of urbanization, in the next 5 decades, India will do more urbanization than what it has done in the last 5,000 years. India will have to do a lot of innovative and sustainable urbanization. It will have to do a lot of compact, dense urbanization on the back of public transportation. And therefore, the challenge for India is to do a huge amount of innovation, do it on the back of metros, integrated rapid transport systems, do it on the back of electric vehicles. And therefore, the challenge is to do great sustainable urbanization, which can then be a model for the rest of the world. I think the fourth key thing is that India has initiated a vast number of structural reforms, a huge number of structural reforms. The minister talked about the goods and services tax, which is bringing India under the one tax regime, and which was radical restructuring of the tax regime in the country. But I think this huge reform posed a vast number of challenges, huge number of challenges for medium and small enterprises, for exporters, but has now leveled out and has moved on smoothly. I think this has been one of the biggest reforms any country anywhere in the world has carried out. I think the second key reform has been the direct benefit transfer. And Indian government was a government of huge leakages earlier, and vast number of schemes which were implemented through government machinery down the line. There used to be a huge amount of leakages. The direct benefit transfer has really meant that we use the biometric account to transfer all government benefits straight into the bank account of the beneficiary, and therefore the government machinery at lower level doesn't come into interplay at all. And the government has implemented close to about 538 schemes across 47 government departments, saving close to about $13.7 billion of just savings from leakages across, which is about close to about 83,000 crores of Indian rupees, simply by ensuring that money goes efficiently into the bank accounts of beneficiaries. And therefore, to my mind, by this radical structural reform, the government has become a far more efficient government. I think that the third key structural reform which the government has carried out was to bring in the insolvency law and to ensure that if there is a failure in the private sector, you will have the possibility of going to the National Company Law Tribunal and sorting it out. And failures are inevitable in a market system. But if there is a failure, you should be able to have a quick exit. So GST, insolvency code, the direct benefit transfer, to my mind, have been some of the huge radical reforms which the government has carried out. The fifth point I want to make is that India is seeing a unique culture, great amount of vibrancy, dynamism, and energy in its startup movement. 3.5 years back, we used to see many of our startups come to Singapore or go to Silicon Valley. We've been able to create a unique ecosystem of startups and a very vibrant system of startups where many of the startups are moving actually from Singapore and Silicon Valley back into India. And therefore, we are seeing a unique ecosystem where a young girl, she started off by teaching Mandarin and Chinese. Pranshu Bhandari actually started with an app called Hello English and has taught last year 9 million Indians how to speak English. Not a single school or college has been able to do this, which one startup has been able to do. Or look at Mitra Biotech, which relocated from Silicon Valley into Bangalore and has done personalized cancer care and has done unique innovation on cancer care. Or Consure Medical. I was not aware that there are actually about close to 100 million people in the world who suffer from issues of stool management. And that's an issue of stool management which not many people talk about. But 16 million people in India suffer from this issue. And therefore, Consure innovated an adapter which is accepted by the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, by Fortis, by Escorts, and is now exported all over the world. And Consure has done great remarkable work in the area of stool management. Or look at a young startup like Ather, which started from IIT Chennai and is doing a smart scooter called S340 in Bangalore, which is the possibility of being the Tesla of the scooter world, an electric smart scooter. And it's I went to the factory last year and I was really impressed by two young boys just out of IIT Chennai doing this great scooter, and with investments from all across the world. So it's not that India has done extremely well in e-commerce, where Flipkart is actually taken on Amazon of the world, or where Ola has actually beaten Uber. But it's across a vast range of innovations. Women entrepreneurs like Shanti Mohan and Meena Ganesh have really done outstanding work in the world of startups. Or when the tsunami happened in Chennai, the government was not able to reach out food packets to people who were stranded, but it was a young startup called Social Cops, which assisted the government of Tamil Nadu to spot people, reach out through the apps, and ensure that food was provided. So you're seeing a unique movement of startups, a unique ecosystem. And when I was growing up, actually, there was no other option but to join the government. But I was really amazed when the IIT director of Mumbai told me that last year, out of the IIT graduates, 44% of them had actually joined a startup or did their own startups. So I think we've been able to create a unique ecosystem, and I think this drive for innovation, this energy to do disruption in society, and this great vibrancy to get into unique areas of growth will drive India forward in the years to come. The sixth point I want to make is that India is seeing a huge amount of innovation. We are seeing a vast amount of great combination of technology, innovation, and skill to do some great frugal engineering for the world. The Microsoft Bing was innovated in India. The General Electric's low-cost ECG machine, which made for about $35,000 US in the United States of America, was innovated for just $3,000 in Bangalore, and which enables GE to do a ECG for $1 as compared to $30 in the United States of America. India was able to put out an orbiter in Mars at 1/10 the cost of what the United States did. I mean, it just cost an Indian one bus ticket to be able to do that. Every Indian paying for just one bus ticket. Or look at Honeywell's turbocharger, or John Dickery's 60 HP tractor, or all these innovations have happened from Bangalore, Hyderabad, now spreading to Pune and Gurgaon. So a lot of great frugal engineering for the rest of the world, enabling pharmaceuticals at the right price points for the world, and India became the pharmacy of the world simply because India was able to provide. If India was not able to provide medicine at the right price points, the American multinationals would have enabled that many of us would have fallen below the poverty lines simply because tertiary care or medical care would not have been possible. So India has enabled that great amount of frugal engineering to be done. 4 years back, Renault, which is an European company which has never ever in its 118 years history ever manufactured a car outside Europe, came to India and for the first time actually innovated, designed, manufactured a car called the Renault Kwid, which it is exporting to 65 countries from India. And Suzuki, which was our first OEM manufacturer, actually manufactures the Bellono car, which it exports back to Japan from India. And Hyundai, which came into India several years back, actually many Indians don't know, but almost 48% of its production is exported to about 118 companies, 118 countries across the world. So India is a great manufacturer, is the greatest manufacturer of compact car manufacturing and of auto components. And Indian manufacturers actually manufacture auto components for Mercedes, for Jaguar, for BMW, for Boeing, for all these top companies, and at great frugal engineering costs, which the rest of the world is just finding it difficult to compete with. So great amount of innovation, great amount of R&D, great amount of frugal engineering for the rest of the world. The next point I want to make is that there's been a huge focus on technology. And how India uses technology to leapfrog in the years to come will be very critical. We're the only country in the world with 1 billion biometric. We're the only country in the world with 1 billion bank account, and we're the only country, what we call the Jam Trinity, with 1 billion bank account, billion mobile, and 1 billion biometric. We all use our mobile, and actually for the last 1 year, I have not used either my debit or my credit card. I just use my mobile for doing all my transactions. All our bank accounts have actually got embedded with my biometric, with our biometric and with our bank account, and we use mobiles to do that transfer. About a decade and a half, actually, I was working in Kerala, and I was working with traditional fishermen to provide them new technologies, crafts, outboard motors, fishing nets. And the fishery sector was riddled with middlemen. One of the challenges was to open bank accounts for them so that they can, we do beach level auctions and put that money into their bank accounts, and it was a nightmare. It used to take me 10 months, 11 months chasing bank managers at physical banks to open their bank accounts. 2 weeks back, I walked into a bank and I was able to open my bank account in 1 minute flat, 55-second flat. So from 11 months to 55 seconds is the paradigm shift in opening bank accounts. And therefore, what India is seeing today is that on the back of biometric, we have one startup, one bank, new bank, actually, one of the new emerging banks, which has been able to get 190 million consumers in about 6 months' time, 6 to 7 months' time. Target is 500 million bank accounts by 2021. Now, State Bank of India took, I think, about last 90 years to get 500 million consumers. And if a new emerging bank, a payment bank, is able to get 500 million bank accounts in 2 years' time, that means you're in for some of the biggest disruption in the banking system. I mean, whether there are public sector banks or not, but the emergence of new banks with new technologies will disrupt the entire banking system. And they will disrupt in the manner which the world has never seen before. And therefore, technology will be one of the key drivers. I mean, India was about 133rd in mobile data consumption just 3 years back. Last month, India's mobile data consumption was higher than the mobile data consumption of the United States of America and China put together. That is the power of mobile. And if 450 million Indians use smartphones, but the rapid rate at which the cost of smartphone is falling in India, I envisage that in the next 4 to 5 years, India will be the first country actually with close to 1 billion smartphones. India will be the first country in the world which will make debit card, credit card, ATMs all technologically redundant. All of them will become technologically redundant because all Indians will be actually using their smartphones to do all digital payments. And all Indians will be doing all their transactions based on their mobiles. And therefore, how India uses technology to leapfrog will be the key factor in the years to come. The next point I want to make is the India's drive to create world-class infrastructure. And I think it's important to understand this because this is really the key to sustaining 9 to 10% growth over a long period of time, lifting vast segments of people above poverty line. You know, some of you have landed in Delhi, some of you have landed in Mumbai. We've created new world-class airports. We are developing 100 smart cities, which the world has never seen before, integrating hard construction with software, with embedding them with new technologies. All these new cities will get embedded with new technology. We are developing metros, cities after cities. We are the year has just closed and we've clocked about 10,000 kilometers of highways in 1 year, which no country in the world has ever clocked before. We were clocking about close to 30 kilometers a day on roads. We are developing this new Bharatmala scheme, which will develop 80,000 kilometers, this new Sagamala scheme, which will link up ports. And today, if you're producing goods in the northern part of India, and it takes about 14 days for goods to reach the ports on the western coast of India. But end of 2018, you will have the dedicated freight corridor, which will enable goods on containers to be put into the ports, into JNPT, Mudra, Pipavav, from any part of northern India to be put in 14 hours. So from 14 days to 14 hours will be the big shift. And similar will be the case on the eastern corridor from Calcutta to Amritsar. So these new corridors, and from Chennai to Bangalore, these new corridors on the back of which new urbanization is taking place will actually be the key driver of growth. So new airports, new cities, new smart cities, new corridors, the new roads, the new linkage to the ports, and to my mind, the new metros will in many ways become some of the key drivers of growth. One of these cities, Amravati, is the one with which Singapore is working with. But there are 100 cities like this coming up in India. I mean, 100 cities, nowhere in the world has this happened before, all getting integrated with hardware, with software. And therefore, this integration and this ability to think big and to have the vision to look at India for the next 3 to 4 decades forward and create infrastructure to drive this growth is important. I think the last point I want to make as far as achievements are concerned is that focus. It's not possible for India to grow at high rates till it doesn't focus on social sector. I think while infrastructure, technology is critical, it's important that India, this government, made radical changes in health and education. And I think one of the key things it has done is to bring social sector center stage. I think I worked in government for over 4 decades, and to my mind, this is the first government which is really strongly focused on opening up education, higher education. It's just given autonomy to about 52 universities, total autonomy moved them away from the University Grants Commission. And I think allowed them to do their own courses, selection of their own staff, allow foreign faculty to come in. All this is radical changes for India, radical changes to my mind. I mean, this is what the education sector was crying for and dying for the last 3 decades. And this just in one stroke, it's opened up, allowed them to just grow and blossom. Even if you don't ask for autonomy, autonomy has been given to these 52 universities. And some of them are saying, no, actually we don't want autonomy, but it's just been given to 52 universities. And therefore, these universities have been allowed to fly. And I think open learning education has been opened up. A huge amount of work has been done on higher education. On the health side, I think a massive focus has been laid on opening up, on strengthening primary health education. 1.5 lakh, 150,000 new primary health centers to be opened, and a huge focus on a national health protection scheme, which will ensure that tertiary care is taken care of for people below the poverty line. And therefore, this new Ayushman Bharat, this whole emphasis and this huge focus of increased spending on health and education and shifting from outputs to outcomes has been a critical driver. I think another key area has been the area of nutrition, where the government has laid a lot of stress through a huge focus through good monitoring, nutrition, by ensuring that you are able to take integrating schemes and laying great emphasis on better quality of assistance to be provided to pregnant women and to newborn. And it's important to say this, but the social sectors have acquired a huge momentum during this government. Having said this and having talked about this, I must say that there are several challenges. There are several challenges, and I think the first and foremost is that gender parity in India is critical. Only 27% of our women, though half the population is women, but only 27% of them contribute to India's GDP. And therefore, gender parity is critical. And if we were to take it to the world's average of about 44%, we'll be adding close to about 700 billion to India's GDP. And therefore, there's been a huge emphasis on what we call as Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, that is save the girl child and educate the girl child. And a huge emphasis has been laid on this. And to my mind, the focus on gender parity will be critical. India's ability to make women as a very key driver of economic growth more than anything else will be critical. Women are outperforming men in every single walk of life. Every single competitive examination where we've given opportunity to women, they've outperformed men. Every single area, they've done better than men. And therefore, how we open it up, how we open up our economy for more and more women to capture opportunities will be critical. The second key challenge to my mind for India is that India's essentially grown on the back of services sector. 68% of India's GDP comes from the services sector. Just about 18% now comes from the manufacturing sector. No country in the world has grown for long periods without manufacturing playing a very critical role and without exports playing a very critical role. And therefore, each of the countries which have grown post-World War II, whether it was Japan, whether it was Korea, whether it was China, have grown on the back of exports. India's growth has largely been on the back of services sector and the manufacturing sector. India's grown on the back of medium and small enterprises. And India suffered from lack of size and scale. And therefore, bringing in size and scale and ability to penetrate global markets, and ability to produce and have productive efficiency will be critical. And therefore, how India enhances its manufacturing and takes its manufacturing to 25%, and how India becomes a more efficient, productively a more efficient economy, and how it's able to penetrate global markets in the years to come will be a very critical factor on its ability to grow over a long period of time. I think the third critical point I want to make is that for India to grow over a long period of time, while the southern states do very well, while the western states do very well, the eastern part of India doesn't do very well. And therefore, if you were to look at the map of India, you'll find green areas. You'll find large green areas in the southern part of India. You'll find yellow areas in the center and the western part of India, but you'll find great red areas in the eastern part of India. And if you were to look at about 730 odd districts of India, you'll find about 115 odd districts where there's been a failure on education, on health, on nutrition, on infrastructure, and on financial inclusion. And unless India doesn't transform these 115 odd districts, it'll be very difficult to sustain growth over a long period of time. And one of the key challenges has been to drive radical restructuring, to drive growth in these 115 areas. So one of the Prime Minister's key program has been the aspirational districts program, where we've totally focused on doing real-time data, capturing where these districts are, capturing change on a real-time basis, minute to minute, and getting data fed in on a real-time basis, and therefore ensuring that these districts compete with the best in their state. You know, if one district, the dropout level is very high, and the same state, the best performing district, the dropout level is very low, there's something going wrong in this district, and therefore we are comparing the district with the best district in the state and with the best district in India. And we are supporting these districts through technology, through a lot of good work by good NGOs, and we are supporting them by additional resources to ensure that these 115 districts become the key driver of change. And there's radical change by adopting some of the best practices from other parts of the country in these districts. And to my mind, once these 115 districts, which we don't call backward, we call them aspirational districts, once they radically change, India's growth takes off on a big jump forward. And to my mind, this is critical. This is critical. This is important not merely for growth, but for inclusiveness. And this, to my mind, is important. So, ladies and gentlemen, I've given you a broad perspective. I've given you that India has gone in for structural reforms. It's gone in for easiness and simplicity. It's opened up its economy. It's used technology for leapfrogging. And it's pushing for urbanization. And it's pushed for world-class infrastructure. But there are challenges. And I think these challenges are how we confront these challenges and how we take these challenges forward will be critical. Let me conclude, ladies and gentlemen, with this 14th century Indian poet. He was a Muslim. He lived in Delhi. He was a Muslim. His ancestry was Turkish. He wrote in the Persian language. But he counted himself to be the luckiest man alive to have been born in India and to have lived in India in 14th century India. And India at that point of time, of course, was the jewel in the world and accounted for almost 40% of the global trade. And he said of 14th century India, how exhilarating is the atmosphere of India. There cannot be a better teacher than the way of life of its people. If any foreigner comes by, he'll have to ask for nothing because they teach him how to smile like a flower and treat him as their own. So India's atmosphere is exhilarating, much like what Amir Khusro in 14th century, a great Muslim, a great writer in Persian, Turkish ancestry had said. Great exhilarating atmosphere of India, and we'll teach you how to smile like a flower. So ladies and gentlemen, all of you are welcome to India. These are very exciting times in India. These are very challenging times in India, and these are very fascinating times in India. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Kant. We will now have a question and answer session with Mr. Kant. To chair the session, I would like to invite back on stage Ambassador Gopinath Pillai. I now hand over the floor to Ambassador Pillai.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was a very passionate presentation. Unfortunately, we are a little short of time. We have a very long panel waiting. So I will have 10 minutes for questions. What I'll do is ask a number of questions together and ask Mr. Kant to give his response. Yes. Yes, Rupa? Sorry, Joshua, sorry.
Sorry. I think she also put her hand up. I'm Joshua. I don't know whether I should call Secretary Amitabh Kant or the Minister Amitabh Kant, because I can't really believe the speech he has given non-stop with the numbers and the statistics. He came from India to do so in Singapore. Thank you very much for the
This is
inspiration.
only possible in South Asia. They can speak for an hour without notes. And this is not just for India. You go to Pakistan, you go to Bangladesh. Bangladesh, they'll even recite poetry for 1 hour. But that's a characteristic.
I would say actually I heard our High Commissioner Javed Ashraf's speech, but it's similar to that because
Can we get on to
Amitabh
the
Kant-
question?
Yeah, Amitabh Kant is very senior most, he can speak. So the question is a little bit longer if you don't mind. There is so much of bureaucracy in India, there is so much of political situation in India. So the last few decades, what we have observed as Singaporean Indians, the bureaucrats run the whole country despite of powerful politicians and cabinet ministers. The last few years, even during my days in the government of Singapore, we have noticed completely different. So now we are looking at the difference, which is the politicians are really very strong in terms of new policies, come up with the forward thinking, collaborate with the regional countries, including, of course, Singapore. We are happy with that. And there is a bit of difference among the bureaucrats. We have a group of excellent bureaucrats like you, Amitabh Kant, and Javed Ashraf, and many others I have seen in Delhi, and the others. So, what is your view in terms of giving a positive words for Singaporeans to consider investing more in India, despite of issues with the smaller bureaucracies or smaller issues in settling the thing, like Gopi also mentioned about logistics business in the southern part of India. This is number one. Number two is the top 3 areas. What do you think the Singaporeans actually should consider India to go along with the growth of India? Thank you.
Okay, next question over there.
Thank you. My name is Nischal Mehta. I have just 2 questions, and after this charged presentation, which popped up through my mind was on the implementation side. There are a lot of questions and roadblocks and challenges that are faced, though there are a lot of initiatives. So what are the initiatives that the government takes to ensure there is better implementation? And also, as we go digital in India, the challenges of cybersecurity also poses a threat. So what are the initiatives the government's taking on that? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mehta. This gentleman at the back. Yes.
Thank you very much. Thomas Kwan from Youth Age. My question is that I know of there are over 30 over U3A, they call it University of Third Age in India, and I know of the Senior Citizen Club or in New Delhi. My question now is that do you have any structural changes for senior citizen learning in India?
Okay. This gentleman at the back. Yes. Oh, over here. Okay. Last question.
Hi, my name is Sunil Gillani. Mr. Amitabh gave a very passionate speech, as everybody said, numbers and statistics. I was expecting to hear something on employment in India. Everything looks very hunky and dory. The employment does not look hunky and dory. The numbers tell a different story. So please, your view on that.
Let me start with Mr. Joshua. I actually said that India was complex, very difficult place to do business in, but it's made itself very easy and simple now, and I think bureaucratic interventions have been done away in almost all fields. You can register a company in 1 day. You can start a company in 1 day. Actually, if you're an MSME, you can start a company in exactly about half an hour. And in every single walk of life in India, the digital integration has been enormous. I think the amount of digital intervention, every single area we've tried to converge and integrate digitally departments across. And human intervention has been done away in most of the areas. So I think it's a great opportunity. You asked me about the opportunity for Singapore company. It's a great opportunity. Mr. Gopinath Pillai invested in a logistic company and he's a great billionaire now thanks to India. You know, he's generated a lot of wealth, and you've invested in a security company and you are going to be a great billionaire soon. So India provides this huge opportunity in a democracy, in a very vibrant democracy with great demand and with rule of law, which no other country provides, and with a growing and expanding middle class. So, your future is not in Singapore, your future is in India. That's all I can say. If you want to create wealth, just look at India and move forward. That's the great opportunity. The second question was about implementation, and let me just say that if there's one area where this government has really tried to focus on is on implementation. So I think there's been a huge improvement. We do outcome-based monitoring in Niti Aayog. We do outcome-based monitoring across sectors. And I think if you were to look at the implementation of, let me just give you examples of a few sectors. The telecom rollout, for instance, the laying of fiber across our panchayats, across our rural areas. I think there's been, we've just finished about 100,000 panchayats in last year, whereas we had just done about 1/10 of them the year before. Or if you were to look at railways, the expansion of the railway network, or highways, in all these sectors we've seen a huge growth in terms of sheer implementation, both in terms of award of work and in terms of actual execution on ground. So I personally feel that we've seen a quantum jump in execution. Some of these infrastructure projects are complex. India's unfortunately had a land acquisition law which is extremely complex, which is very difficult to fathom. But despite all this, a lot of headway has been made in implementation on ground in many of these areas: railway, highways, ports, telecom, many of these areas. But one of the great exciting things that has happened in India is that, for instance, highways, where the government has constructed road, it put it out into the private sector. Government is good at something, it's good at construction, but is extremely poor at operation and maintenance, and therefore it put out all these toll roads, 9 of these roads into the market. And we've had all the top pension funds, over $1 billion was raised from these top pension funds who wanted to come in, because these are completely de-risked projects, and we are putting the next lot into the market again. So we are constructing, but we are putting it out for operation and maintenance for the private sector. So I think implementation has improved. There's been a huge push. There is a need for greater focus in some other areas as well. I think particularly in social sectors, there's a need to put in a lot of emphasis on this. The third question was about senior citizens and what we do about them. Let me only say that we are extremely socially conscious about senior citizens. In fact, they are the most pampered lot in Indian society. Senior citizens, they have a preference and they have a huge discounts on everything that they do, from railway tickets to airline tickets to everything. And many states, actually state governments, have several schemes only for senior citizens. I come from Kerala, which is actually a very social welfare state, which lays a lot of emphasis on providing a pension scheme for senior citizens. So every state has actually done its best for senior citizens. And there was a question on cybersecurity as India moves forward technologically and moves forward digitally. I think a lot of work has been done on the cybersecurity side, on both Aadhaar, on UPI, on GST. A lot of work has been done on the back end to ensure that there is adequate cybersecurity measures in place. The Ministry of Trade and Industry has done an enormous amount of work on cybersecurity work to ensure that these are kept intact, and there are layers and layers of security which have been created. So several attempts have been made to hack, but they've not succeeded so far. So I think, to my mind, the cybersecurity has been fairly good as far as India has been concerned. And the last question was on employment. And to my mind, the challenge for India is to grow with jobs, but really the big challenge is not about merely jobs, but about the right kind of wages with the jobs. The problem has been one that India's been able to create jobs, but very low-paid jobs, and therefore it needs to create jobs with high wages. I did not dwell much on new areas of growth like artificial intelligence, etc., simply because the challenge for India will be to create higher skilled and higher paid jobs. There have been several surveys done in recent times, one by McKinsey, which said that actually in the last 3.5 years, India has been able to create about 26 to 27 lakhs jobs, and another by a chief economist of a financial institution and a professor from IIM Bangalore, who's worked on data analytics, to say that adequate number of jobs have been created. But the challenge has been that these jobs have been created at low wage levels, and the challenge for India is to create higher paid and opportunities and jobs. And the challenge to my mind is one of shifting a vast amount of disguised unemployment in the agriculture sector. Agriculture sector suffers from a huge amount of disguised unemployment, to move them into areas of manufacturing and urbanization in the years to come.
Thank you. I'm sorry we have run out of time. I will have to call it a day, but Mr. Kant will be here, I'm sure, during lunch, where he can sign autographs or answer your questions. So it's up to you to decide.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Great pleasure being here. Wonderful being here.
Thank you, Mr. Kant and Ambassador Pillai. Ambassador Pillai will now present a token of our appreciation to Mr. Kant. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my pleasure to invite Mr. Syed Raza Ali Gillani, Minister for Higher Education, Punjab, Pakistan, to deliver his address. Minister Gillani will speak on the significance of Punjab, Pakistan in South Asia. Minister, please.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Mr. Ambassador, Mr. Gopinath Pillai, Mr. Amitabh Kant, Executive Officer, respected audience, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum, and still a very good morning. To the organizer, I would have requested them to put my speech either earlier than Mr. Kant, because I had to go through by reading the facts, and he is very good in numbers, which I am not actually. So this is something you have to bear me, because I don't want to miss anything out. He's got a good memory. Anyway, I congratulate the organizers for conducting such a successful and informative conference on such an important area of topics. No doubt, the present times, South Asia, due to its geostrategic location, has become one of the most crucial and significant region of the world, and surely this region needs to be given due importance for a thorough study and evaluation at international level, within which is being done over here today. It is an occasion of great pleasure for me to speak in front of this August gathering, where I will be highlighting firstly South Asian politics, and then Punjab and its significance. South Asia as a region upholds its identity as an area enriched with diverse languages, cultures, ethnic and religious groups, and even a vibrant political and administrative setup. This diversity at one place provides opportunity for shared destiny, but on the other may also lead to seeds of conflicts. The importance of South Asian region as a pivot to future market economies and regional connectivity has increased manifolds, mainly because of Chinese One Belt, One Road initiatives. CPEC, which has been discussed here earlier too, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, a major and flagship component of this grand global strategy of economic connectivity, lies in this region. The project, seen in the bigger context of rising China and its grand strategy is expected to change the traditional outlook of South Asia region as a whole. Massive and rapid development in the infrastructure, communication, and commerce sector are bound to follow once the project is materialized. Regional actors, Iran, India, and Afghanistan, cannot resist the urge to join the mega project in the light of changing geopolitical realities at global and regional level. Such developments and tectonic changes in the geopolitical and economic realm call for the development of skilled human capital. The two major countries of the region, with burden of their checkered history and political differences, have been unable to play their role in bringing peace and prosperity to the region. Peace and development processes, to a large extent, have remained hostage to the animosity between India and Pakistan. The blame game and the unending list of grievances against each other have consumed a lot of economic and intellectual energies and needs not to be mentioned here. The people of this great subcontinent has lived together for centuries. For thousands of years, we have shared the same spaces, same languages, same history, and a lot of same cultural traits. The interlude of colonial rule forced us to part ways. The division, as is clear from various speeches of the founder of Pakistan, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, was in no way intended to aggravate our relationship with India or to make the communal rifts a permanent cause of animosity. Rather, it was intended to lessen the sufferings, settle the disputes amicably, and to cooperate in the journey of making this region prosperous, progressive, and peaceful. As a Minister of Education for Punjab, Pakistan, I would like to shed light on Pakistani part of the Punjab region, which has a historical legacy of shared values with Indian Punjab. These values, despite waves of communal and ethnic tensions in the past, still are a ray of hope because of multi-factors of example. We share long and peaceful border despite waves of national aggression and political diplomatic deadlocks. Punjab is home to 100 million people. It is the most densely populated province of the country. Punjab has been the cradle of civilization since time immemorial. It has been inhabited since ancient times. It has faced and survived many invasions in the past by the Aryans, the Greeks, Egyptians, Persians, Afghans, and Mughals, with a history dating back to famous Indus Valley civilization discovered at Harappa. Even today, it remains the center of political and economic activities of the country. It is known as the lifeline of Pakistan and the land of 5 rivers. Its economy is mainly agrarian, although industry has also been making substantial contributions. Despite its tropical wet and dried climate, extensive irrigation makes it a rich agriculture region. Its canal irrigation system is one of the world's best irrigation systems. It is playing a leading role in agriculture production, contributing 68% to the annual food grain production in the country, and is the largest wheat growing region. Cotton and rice are other important cash crops. It is the most industrialized province of Pakistan. It has more than 48,000 industrial units with small and cottage industries in abundance. It is the strongest economy of the country, contributing a major chunk of the national GDP. It is also a mineral-rich province with extensive mineral deposits of coal, rock, salt, gypsum, silica, sand. It has the lowest rate of poverty amongst all Pakistani provinces. It is also one of South Asia's most populated areas, with 40% of people living in urban areas. This province has been strongly influenced by Sufism, with large number of Sufi shrines spreading across Punjab, attracting millions of devotees. It is also culturally vibrant, with a number of festivals being celebrated with traditional zeal. The festivals of Baisakhi to celebrate the wheat crops, and Basant, seasonal festival of kites to celebrate arrival of spring, are few examples. Regular exhibitions, annual horse shows and cattle shows with official patronage are held regularly. Several UNESCO World Heritage Sites are located in Punjab that include Shalimar Garden, Lahore Fort, archaeological excavations at Texila and Rohtas Fort. The story of Punjab portrays many bright colors despite a dark reality of looming threats of wars, insurgencies, and a nuclear flashpoint. Historically, the Pakistani Punjab and Indian Punjab have been a monolithic unit with single language, caste system, and economic interests. The historical norms of coexistence and peace are being promoted by the educational drives of our government. Establishment of Punjab Higher Education Commission strives to ensure that an enlightened, skilled, and vibrant generation is the helm of affairs. Ladies and gentlemen, a number of new universities and sub-campuses have been established in various cities to promote and encourage higher education across the province. For this purpose, various capacity building and teacher training programs have been initiated. Our government foresees a future where educational linkages, student-faculty exchange programs, and joint research ventures will enable and empower the coming generations to create a discourse of human centricity, cooperation, progress, with open-heartedly embracing mutual differences and consensually reaching a win-win solution. The ultimate goals of peace, prosperity, and a thriving society cannot be met without focusing on primary and tertiary education. In order to ensure economic parity and the right of quality education, the Punjab has initiated various projects which grieve to address the historical deprivation of the region. Ladies and gentlemen, infrastructure development in Punjab is another area where our government has focused. It is essential to provide connectivity in the region for economic uplift by bridging the gap between rural-urban areas and even for the fostering religious harmony across the borders. Historically, Punjab has been a vibrant area for contributing towards the national growth and overall gross domestic product of the South Asian region. Currently, the Punjabi diaspora across the world has remained well knitted through their common heritage, culture, and folklore. The Punjabi diaspora has persistently contributed through foreign remittances. India and Pakistan cannot retain their progress unless this strategic, economically active region thrives in the right direction. The present government under Chief Minister Shehbaz Sharif has numerous new innovative initiatives to uplift the most populated province. These projects have transformed the development outlook of the province. Few of these include the Child Protection and Welfare Bureau, Social Mobilization Campaign, Metro Bus Service, Orange Line Mass Transit Project, Lahore Safe City Project, and establishment of Information Technology University, Model Villages, Lahore Knowledge Park, and many more. The major challenges in the region, like poverty, education, regional connectivity, energy creation, have been the prime areas of focus by our government. One of the most threatening challenges we are facing at the regional level is the menace of terrorism and extremism. The region has witnessed a number of human tragedies, genocides, wars, and atrocities incurring irreparable loss on the South Asian society. Starting from the grassroots level, government of the Punjab is bent upon spread of education so as to serve the process of evading impediments in the process of regional integration and development. Punjab at present is a pleasant fusion of traditional and modern societal values and promotion and preservation of such values that support human centricity and development is the key to achieve the dream of making this region prosperous and progressive. We foresee a future where Punjab contributes in terms of human and material resource in making South Asia a prosperous and progressive region, and are striving to achieve the goal of making the province the cornerstone of future regional and global developments. This is all what I had to say for today, but this is what I have to speak about it. But ladies and gentlemen, this is the first time Pakistan has been represented by me as a minister. But as Mr. Pale just rightly said, that they've been inviting Pakistani representative of the ministers to come over, and I could not follow what reason they would not been participating in this beautiful August gathering and these sort of conferences. I thought that might be they could not understand the meaning of ISAS. They might have taken it to the wrong subject or wrong way, and they might have not been explained properly. And I'm sure this might be the reason. Otherwise, I think this gathering I really enjoyed very well. This is very informative, very innovative sort of thinking, and I'm sure that if by any chance this is going to happen every year, and if the invitation would be forwarded to us, inshallah, by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we will participate in all the conferences in future. I assure you on that. And I would request the administration here that Pakistan is really emerging in a way that there's no way to stop it now, because this progress, this new initiatives which the government of Pakistan has taken in previous 4 years' time are going to lead us to the level where we will, inshallah, make our mark to the world. And this contribution of such conferences and letting the people know about what Pakistan is moving forward for will, inshallah, let the world know us better. And this side of conferences and interaction will lead us to some solid bonds between the countries, which I've already spoken about. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. Now to chair the question and answer session with Minister Gillani, I would like to invite Professor Subrata Mitra, Director and Visiting Research Professor, Institute of South Asian Studies, NUS. I now hand over the floor to Professor Mitra.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we are singularly fortunate in having Minister with us. Minister Gillani has already reminded us of the significance of Pakistan to the project of understanding emerging South Asia. The talk of Pakistan today divides a lot of people in the West into two camps. One believes it's a failed state, and the other believes it's a failing state. Minister obviously does not belong to either category, and listening to him, I understand why Pakistan remains a determined, resilient state, fighting for its corner and fighting to be understood properly. Today, if you ask this question this way, you couldn't find a better person than Minister Gillani to engage with you. He represents three strands which are very important to us. First, he belongs to a distinguished genealogy that goes back to 600 years, connecting to Pakistan in terms of spirituality and political leadership. As he himself is concerned, he's a trained person in a number of areas like textile engineering and now representing higher education, who can credibly talk about what makes modern Pakistan the power that it is. Today, Pakistan is a hinged state, a modern democratic state which straddles resurgent revivalist Islam and modernity. And you, in your person, connect both Islam and modernity. And most important of all, let's not forget, there is a certain anxiety behind all those who want to understand emerging South Asia and to invest in emerging South Asia. This is the danger of the place exploding or imploding. You have two nuclear-powered neighbors locked in a battle. They can neither manage to win nor afford to lose. And Pakistan, with its professional army and its nuclear power, is a very important stakeholder of order in South Asia. If we are to have a norm-based order in South Asia, we have to bring Pakistan into the tent and not let Pakistan go away from South Asia. Minister, these are the things that connect you to ISAS and to Singapore, and the audience is looking forward to engaging you in all these areas that you have touched on. We unfortunately don't have a lot of time to keep people waiting for the lunch, so I would encourage the audience to be very precise and specific in raising your questions. The minister is now ready. I'll recognize questions. So I've seen two hands going up, Dr. Sojin Shin, and you. Those are the three first questions I'll take.
Thank you, Minister. My name is Sojin Shin from ISAS. I have a question about foreign aid, the role of foreign aid in Pakistan's education sector. And as far as I know, foreign aid has been very significant financial resources for Pakistan to capitalize on enhancing not only counterterrorism measures, but also education sector in Pakistan, and especially East Asian countries such as South Korea, where I am from, is very much interested in sending financial resources to Pakistan's education sector. But there are many voices in Korea reporting the political and institutional instability of Pakistan acting as barriers of like foreign aid effectiveness in the sector. So I'm wondering whether your ministry has some kind of like institutional arrangements tackling such like problems. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gillani, for representing your country and giving us an excellent speech. Okay, my question is on the creation of new province in Pakistan. According to the manifesto of your political party, the PMLN, in the manifesto it has written that PMLN is committed to creating new provinces, in particular South Punjab and Powerful. The thing is that this is written in your manifesto, but until now is not done. And there's and there's many reports that says that even within the province of Punjab, South Punjab has the level of development has been unequal. And the thing is that on the point of creation of new province, I just want to quote Mr. Jinnah said that when he wanted full Punjab and full Bengal, he said that a man is first a Punjabi or a Bengali before he's a Hindu or a Muslim. And the thing is that, and if you look at the history of India and Pakistan, India actually created province on linguistic lines, but whereas Pakistan went the opposite direction by creating the one unit system. So my question to you basically is that firstly, what are because definitely PMLN is willing to create new provinces, but what are the obstacles leading to the creation of new province? And since I've asked you this question, I just want to know someone from a provincial government, what's your view really on the creation of new province, and in your opinion on the separation of Karachi from Sindh? Just a matter of 5 days back was the anniversary of the separation from Sindh from the Bombay presidency. So I mean, this time around, would you favor Karachi becoming a separate province? Just my final remark is that Karachi was never part of Sindh since 1947 until one unit system was done away with. So thanks.
Next question, please.
I'm Sunil Gillani. I almost share my name with you, Minister. Born in Dera Ghazi Khan. So Pakistan is very dear to me, as also Pakistanis. But my question to you is about why there is so much of economic disparity between various states of Pakistan. Well, Punjab is the most prosperous, but the others are not. And the disparity is huge. Is it that Punjabis are too dominating and do not allow other states to come up? Would like to see as a natural thing that all states prosper and every Pakistani prospers the similar way. Your views, please.
I'll respond to the question which Ms. Susan asked me about the investment you want to bring into Pakistan, the barriers you face over there in the education sector. As I've discussed, as I've already spoke about the Lahore Knowledge Park, if you just heard about it. Lahore Knowledge Park is actually an idea which has been floated by the Chief Minister, and he's very focused about these bottlenecks which we've been facing and having from ages in Pakistan regarding the educational transition between other countries and Pakistan. We have come up with this project. It's a new one. It's already done a lot. This knowledge park is actually a forum where the other countries can come up and without having any problems, and the bottlenecks are all already been improved and they're removed in a manner that we can let you invest in that sector without any hesitation, without any problem. And this is why we came up with this idea that because now the government of Punjab has decided that instead of sending our students abroad for studies and spending a lot of money abroad, they should study in Pakistan, in Lahore, and the universities abroad, the best of the best universities which are ranked under 500 QS ranking, they can come up and invest in Punjab, in Lahore, and they can come up with their infrastructure in the universities' campuses there. And we will offer our students to go and learn from them instead of going abroad. So this is one sector I'm talking about. The rest is, we came up with the Higher Education Commission in 2002. It was only meant to resolve such problems, which we faced. We actually foreseed it then, that this kind of commission can resolve such problems. So that commission is actually helping us out with the new policies. If you come up now to Pakistan with this ideas of investing in, I'm sure you will not be facing any problem any further. And if there would be any, Punjab is actually having this Law Knowledge Park for foreign investment there. Anish asked me about the new provinces. Well, that's a very political sort of a question, my brother. I would not be in a position to talk about Sindh while I represent Punjab here. So you're going to come up with a new problem for me. I'm not going to say that, but I tell you I'm in a favor. And I'm totally, the government of Punjab and the government of Pakistan is in favor of coming up with new provinces instead of having one. So there is already been discussed in the assembly, in the National Assembly, along with the Provincial Assembly too. The case is still undergoing the process, which will take not short of time. It's like it will take a lot of discussions on. We have come up with a brainstorming committee which we have created just to come up, just to bring up to resolve those issues which have been faced by, which are been raised by the certain districts that they just don't want to leave Punjab, they have to remain there. So there are 60 to 70% people really want to go for, or I would say 50 to 55% wants to go for the new province, but the rest of the 45 really remain with the same provinces. So these are the things which need to be discussed and resolved up. So I totally agree with you. We are on that track and we are working on it. Someday or the other, we might will come up a new policy of coming up with the new provinces. A question from my Pakistani fellow at the end. Well, there's no economic disparity at all among provinces, but there's always, we are independent provinces. If you say that we jeopardize the rights of other provinces, we cannot. Actually, they have their own way of working, we have our own. We come up with our policies, they come up with theirs, because they are like different governments. Sindh has a People's Party to run the show. KPK has the Tehreek-e-Insaf who's running the show. They don't follow our footsteps, or they come up with their own. So I'm not gonna say that those provinces are actually, we force them to not to excel in their fields. We cannot do. They're totally independent. If they come up with the policy of bringing a change or doing better than Punjab, they're most welcome. They should do it. But Punjab is the biggest province, so we have to set a standard for everyone. So if they don't follow it, it's up to them. But Punjab is excelling in Pakistan because we are determined to bring this work as a big brother, because we are. So we have to prove our existence in a manner that we work hard, we make a policy, and we implement it in the specific time. So this is why we are ahead of other provinces. Thank you.
Minister, I appreciate the candor with which you have taken politically complicated questions. ISAS events take pride in offering 4 walls of freedom to the speaker as well as to the audience. The only thing we can't do is to offer time. So we're going to have to speed up a little. Further questions? Okay, Dr. Jivanta Shetty.
Question about heritage in Punjab. It was wonderful to hear you mention Mohenjo-daro in your speech, which I believe has tended to be slightly neglected in the story of Pakistan. So I think it's great to promote that. Another area of living heritage is Sufism, which is again part of your state. Can you tell us a bit about the support and the state of Sufism today? And is there any effort to induct Sufism into the education system to promote syncretic thinking, especially with regards to religion? Thank you.
Okay. Is there a hand going up? Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just want to add a comment on to, since the Minister referred to my organization, I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Lahore Knowledge Park, and the lady from South Korea just wanted to know more about the stability in Pakistan. I'm sure that she must be watching a lot of media that is emanating from Pakistan and India. Please stop doing that. There are a lot of perception issues that are hovering around the stability. I don't think so there is any stability issue. We had the previous government in 2013, and the next elections are coming up in 2018 in July. And there is a peaceful transition of the government from one government to the other government. Their financial stability, Pakistani stock market was registered the best in the region in 2016. As far as the research publications and education is concerned, the Reuters established the most cited Pakistani Higher Education Commission with more than 1,200 citations in 2016. Pakistan has registered last year 5.4% growth, GDP growth, and we are targeting this year around 6%. And this is all in the backdrop of the two of the biggest wars in the region in the last 50 years. The Afghan war in 1979 and after the 9/11, we have taken the brunt of the whole of the world. 70,000 lives have been laid down by the Pakistani people. More than $20 billion have been lost in this whole war. Yes, there may have been problems from our side as well, but I think that the situation that we have been going through and the sacrifices that we have been giving for the whole of the world, that must also be appreciated in the wider context and an extended arm of help to our educational institutions, to our financial stability, through our political and cultural waves that are going on in the way. And the last thing about the cultural heritage that you're talking about, the Mohenjo-daro is in the province of Sindh. The minister was talking about Harappa also, that is in the province of Punjab. So these are the excellent archaeological sites. And if you still have any questions about the stability and the financial linkages and educational linkages, please come up to me. I can be helpful. Thank you.
Khan sir, thank you very much for saving me out of this. Well, thank you very much. But I would love to respond to the question raised by the lady here, Javanta, Madam Javanta. You rightly said, Sufism is our identity as a Pakistani. I would definitely love to speak about, because my relation, I belong to a family which is also based in Pakistan from last 604 years to be exact. We have included Sufism in our syllabus, in curriculum, in our higher education sector. We discuss about our Sufis not in Urdu language, is in English as well. So we have stopped going with Mr. Chips and all that. We are putting out Sufism as role models for us as Muslims, as Pakistanis, for the future education. So Sufism is there. The heritage we cannot set aside, because that is the identity we have, and these are the things which we cannot set aside. So that is there. I wish if you could come to Pakistan and show you around, we will love it that way. Thank you very much.
We'll make a last round. May I take the opportunity to ask the first question in this last round? Minister, there's a lot of expectation and excitement about the Chinese investment in Pakistan. If you look at it comparatively, you'd find that the investments in some other South Asian countries, in Sri Lanka, for example, have not really paid off the way they were expected to. My question is, what kind of critical conversation is there within Pakistan about the significance of the Chinese investment and its long-term implication for Pakistan? Well, that was from me. Are there other questions?
I think this is a good question. Let me respond back to, respond to you. Indeed, that's a fact there. China economic corridor for Pakistan is a role. It's really a mark which we are going to achieve. A lot of countries, I would say, a lot of areas are been threatened by that. Not only that, within Pakistan, there are a lot of discussion about it. That it's not the one group which is against the. There's a political discussion against goes to the ruling party that this should not happen. But this is not going to happen any further. We're not going to listen to it because we have gone too far for it. We are at the verge of completion of the CPAC. And this CPAC is turning the table around for Pakistan. This is going to set their own marks now. As discussed about you, as you asked, that the experience which other countries had between China, I'm not going to talk about them. I'm not here to represent whatever they dealt with. But we are, China is very supportive. We are having this friendship from ages with China. We never experienced anything against China or against Pakistan between this relation. It's very solid, and we are making, example out of it. This relation will lead to a success. There's no harm to it, and I have all the best wishes and very positive hopes for the future for this project, this EPAC. And definitely it will turn the tables around. And financially, Pakistan will not only grow in financially, but also politically with this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. I'm now going to bring the formal session to an end with a couple of comments from me. I really appreciate the candor with which you have engaged, and a takeaway from here back to Pakistan would be to remind people how important it is today for Pakistan to think in South Asian terms, and South Asia to have empathy with Pakistan and understand the vibrancy and resilience of Pakistan and the determination of Pakistan to continue to straddle between modernity and Islam, interpret one to the other, and make its own distinctive contribution to South Asia, as you suggested. The second point is about the youth of South Asia. You represent that vibrant, youthful face of Pakistan, having been once the youngest cabinet minister, and bringing the youth back in. They don't want to remember the past, which is mired in conflict. They want to look towards the future and get from life what life offers today. And the third message would be Singapore. As you have noticed here, within the four walls of freedom, we talk about South Asia as talk should be, with rigor and empathy. And Singapore, particularly our institute, offered that kind of forum. As you can see, we learn from one another. And your response to one of the questions, a complicated question about creating new provinces, you can see next door neighbor started with 14, and now the count is 29. Making new provinces into semi-autonomous units is one way of turning rebels into stakeholders. They then learn they hang together or they will be hanged separately. So if you look at it comparatively, maybe that's another takeaway for you from back home. I will now invite the Master of Ceremonies to take over.
Thank you, Minister and Professor Mitra. Professor Mitra will now present a token of our appreciation to the Minister.
Covered. It's our joy, Minister, to present you with a small token. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We would now like to invite all of you to a lunch reception at the ballroom next door.